the video you've been asking for, that you've been begging for, is finally here. You guys have been asking and asking for me to have Chad back, the creator of Gods and Nemesis. It's been in comments, not only in my Linux videos, but across all my videos. Like, yeah, great review, dude, but can you have Chad come back and talk about Blender, please? So he's here. The creator of Gods and Nemesis is in the house to give you guys a tutorial on Blender here. Now, what we're going to do today, and don't let me oversell this, because we're going to take small baby steps, but we're actually going to create a little creature, a little slime creature. You know, EverQuest, every game has a good slime creature.
That's right.
We're going to create a slime creature that's actually going to end up in Gods and Nemesis. But what you can do is, and we're doing this all in Linux, by the way, and Chad doesn't typically use Linux. We're trying to convert him, but he's going to do all of this in Linux and do this right in front of you to show you that everything that he does in Windows can be done in Linux from a game development standpoint using all open source free software here. So this is really an awesome opportunity for you to follow along and actually just do the steps with him. Feel free to hit pause and create your first slime creature. If you're wanting to get into game development, creating your first creature and importing it into Torque will be a major step, because now you get to start seeing your creations, and that's what gets you excited and gets you wanting to keep playing games. I assume when you first started, this was one of the first steps that you did that made you go, oh my God, I think I'm going to do this for the next 6 years and actually develop a full game.
Absolutely. I use the Blender game engine. Believe it or not, Blender actually has a game engine. It's actually really cool, and they have made major strides since I have messed with it. But I had eventually came across Torque, and I liked it a lot, and it kind of just flowed with what I was doing. But some of the first tutorials was actually in Blender of how to actually create a game, and it used Python, and it just had a little, a little pumpkin creature, and once you create that, it's just an amazing feeling that you start learning how these things interact. And it really just started off with this box that you see. And when you first open up Blender, you'll get a default box, and you can start molding that if you want, or you can go up into the corner here and start actually adding in any type of shape that you want. So,
but we're going to start with the box, because that's going to keep it simple. I know when I first logged into Blender and I was doing it for video editing purposes, and I see this box with these arrows and these lines, it almost looks like Tron, like you've entered a Tron environment. It's intimidating as all get out. Like, it just, you're like, okay, I'm not going to get this. There's 50,000 controls over on the right. There's 5,000 controls on the top. I know that I ended up messing with like 16 different items I wasn't supposed to and moving screens around. But really, don't let it intimidate you. If you follow along, it's going to be real simple. Now, you're in a different view, I think, different option, the composing view up there.
Right.
So that's the one you're going to go up to this top, and you're just going to select composition, right?
Right. I'm not going to reselect it because I had to make certain modifications myself to what was going on. First off, when you go, actually, I'll show you. What am I talking about?
This is default here. This is what you're going to see as soon as you log in. Nothing different.
Right? So, right. So this is what you get when you first start up Blender. And so you have all these options here that you can choose from. So you have animation type. If you're an animator, this will probably be what you want to start off in. It depends on what you're wanting to attack. But since I kind of like this mode here the best, because what it does is that I had to change this right here. Each one of these windows has a little icon in the bottom left corner, and you can change it to what you need. So I had to change it to 3D view. I think it was node view, which did not help me very much, but it was just one step and I was there. So I have a 3D model, and I hold down the middle mouse and I just move my mouse around. I can scale around it, and if you hold down the middle mouse, well, actually, hold on a second. Yeah, that's just the scale right there. And then if we go and this is an important mode right here, is the edit mode. So that's what we're going to be working in as well. And on the bottom here we have let's see, we have the ability to bring in textures. So we want to be able to do that. And so those are some of the things.
Because the whole goal really is we're going to take this box, we're going to wrap it in a texture, and then we're going to import it into Torque. And that's really going to be step one, video one. Because now you're going to see how you can start wrapping shapes with different textures. And the slime, while we'll start getting into things like animating it and moving it, really at this point, you just want to be able to create a texture, wrap it around the shape, and then be able to import it into the video game editor. And that's going to allow you to see your work. And you can make edits to that texture, etc. And we're not going to be doing anything super fancy. Anybody can really follow along with this, no matter what your skill level is. And that's the whole point of these videos and why I wanted to start with the basics. And obviously, Chad's at the point where he's releasing a game, so kind of stepping back and starting with this stuff can be difficult, but I wanted to really start at the very beginner. So if you're interested in game development or you want to play or learn about Blender, this is going to be a really great video for you, and you can see your work, which is really cool. So you've got this box here. You can use the middle mouse button to move around. You've changed your view to the compositing. You've changed your view below down to the 3D view model. Now what do we do?
Okay, so we want to, just to reiterate, we want to make this a simple video. So what we're gonna do is we're just going to import this box to make sure that we know what we're doing in regards to Torque or whatever engine you have. So the box is fine, and I'll show you. We can start shaping that box in a little bit. I'm going to export it as a Collada file, and now I need to export it into the Torque game engine. Downloads, Torque 3D, and now here's there's going to be a lot of folders that you're going to have to get used to. You can make your own folders. I typically make a folder in art and shapes, and we made a monster folder, so you can make your own folder. And we happen to
you can name it anything you want. We just named it monster.
And so we, as you can see, we already exported a box before, and we called it monster test. You can call it anything you want up here. But we're gonna go ahead and select the monster test, and it'll automatically rename it to whatever you select, and it'll give you kind of like a warning. It highlights it as red, yeah. And then go ahead and export as Collada. Now what we need to do.
Now, why do we export as Collada? Why is that important?
Well, Collada allows the ability to take the shape, and there's a lot more complexities in this model later on, such as animations, and that's where it becomes even more important. But it basically determines if there's a collision mesh around it. So when we import this into Torque, you're going to find that it doesn't have a collision mesh, so you're going to be able to walk right through it. So later on, we'll make a collision mesh, and we have to make specific points that Collada looks for in order to create a hierarchy. It will look for animations that we might create. It will look for the textures that we add onto it. And I will show you that today, actually, how to do the texture. And it basically pulls all that information together, it organizes it, condenses it, and Torque.
That's what Torque likes to have, basically.
Right.
In collision meshing, if you're not into the terminology, if you think even the most simplistic game like the original Mario, when you run into a mushroom, what happens? You take damage. For that to happen, it has to have some type of mesh around it to say, hey, when this character gets this close to it, that mushroom is going to do X, Y, Z to that character, right?
That's correct.
I mean, that's the whole point of it. So basically, you're creating an invisible barrier around that piece of art to say, once that barrier is crossed, X is going to happen. That's take damage or whatnot, and that's really gaming kind of 101 for an enemy. Although a lot of times, you guys, you programmers, you gamers, you write that collision mesh so that it cheats. I'm positive of this.
No, we don't.
Because there are a lot of times that mushroom killed me when there ain't no way I was near that thing. I was nowhere near it.
Oh, all of us programmers actually that night got together and we went over what we had done, and we believe what we had done was correct, and you should have perished.
Yeah. All
right. So we exported it to Torque, and so I'm going to bring over Torque here.
So the two programs, really three programs you're going to need. You're going to need, and they're all free. You're going to need to download Blender.
Right.
And you could go on Blender's website to get the instructions to download that in Linux or Windows. You're going to download Torque 3D, which again is completely free. You're not going to have to pay anything. And you're going to download GIMP. So Blender is really where you're going to create your art and you're going to morph it and all that pieces. Torque is where you're going. That's the game engine itself. That's where you're going to import it into. And GIMP is so you can take whatever mesh you decide to download, whatever graphic you're going to wrap around that box to become your slime, and you could add little, markings or all that type of stuff to add some more flavor to it.
Yeah, I think you're gonna find that interesting when we do that part. I enjoyed making my own textures. We're gonna pull one from the internet just as a test texture, but you should never just stay with that. You should make your own textures. Otherwise, you can get into trouble if you're using other people's stuff. But we're just using it for...
Because nobody in my videos pirates anything. They never would do that.
Yeah,
Trust
right.
me.
All right, so we're going to play... we're not going to play the game. We're going to go into World Editor, so we have the ability to actually alter things.
And this is how Torque looks the second you download it. We've done nothing different.
That's right.
Here. Yep.
Yeah, it has actually a few more options like replay and things, but really it's the same basic version that I have. And we'll go ahead and hit World Editor. I don't know if I hit it or not. Oh, there we go. And what looks interesting to you? These two are boring, the first two. They're important because if you just want to, if you want a simple room and you want to test out the CPU usage of your new model, then you would want an empty room. And so that way it's not processing trees and all this other stuff. You want to just see the CPU, what it has to do in order for that specific model. And you might have to remesh it and things like that in order to make it simpler.
Well, man, I've been playing so much Zelda, and that sand right there just speaks to me. I don't know why, yeah. And
I think we had imported a few of our test objects prior, and that's fine. So it comes with a template character. You can use that if you want. But I think that if you're going to make your own game, of course, you want to make your own character in Blender.
Which is kind of cool because they give you a lot of starting points here. You already have a character. You've already got a gun. If you hit the trigger, it shoots. So you already got some dynamics happening. And with that gun shooting and that bullet coming out, I remember you explaining to me this one time, but I don't really remember it. But basically, that's just triggering some action in the program to say, hey, run this art basically to show a bullet flying out. It really doesn't mean anything, right?
Right. They're separate animations. So the animation where he's breathing is the root animation, and we have the gun animation when you are firing. It triggers off a separate animation, which is actually a separate character that we load into Blender, where we have to animate that character as he's shooting, and so it basically switches off between that. So it's a lot of it's a state. It's actually called a state machine. It's a very simple form of program that a lot of people use even for simple forms of artificial intelligence.
Yeah, gun switch.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, I think that's a grenade.
Yeah, we call that the Moab. Moag, the mother of all guns.
There it is. Oh, I got hit.
That
okay.
Work. So you've got a great starting point here. You've got a character and this is why Torque is kind of cool. You got, I don't know if other game engines do it, they may, but I love that they kind of start you out so that you can start editing and tweaking things with a full world environment, even though it's just sand. You've got a gun, you've got a character, you've got some breathing animation, so you can start going in there on your own and actually playing with the things that you put into this game. And of course, we're going to try to import a slime here.
And it's important to have a character like this too. Obviously, you're not going to use this for your own game, but it's important to have a pre-made character so you can test out your levels when you're creating your levels and things, and testing out your meshes. For instance, let's go ahead and bring in that mesh that we had created, which is actually this one right here, but I'll show you how to do it. So first, what I like to do is I go into camera mode. So I toggle camera, and now I'm free from the character. It disconnects the camera from the character. I'm able to move
What keys
on.
are you using to move around like that? WASD, just like any first-person shooter. Well, that's what you right-handed people like. Us left-handed people use the arrow keys.
Well, you can use that too.
Okay, all right. So
So
doesn't discriminate against southpaws.
So far, so far.
Yeah.
Right. So I go into camera mode. So this is what you would do in order to go and start editing your level. But anyway, all we're wanting to do is bring in that mesh. So we have to navigate to the folder. We go into meshes, art, shapes, and we called it monsters. And there she is, right there. Oh, maybe I have to double click this. There we go. And there it is. So it adds it into the world, and you take these, I think they're called gimbals.
Okay, so to tie this together now, we went into Blender, right?
Right.
We used this, we changed nothing. We just had that box sitting in front of us. We changed a couple of views. We exported it to Collada. We pulled it in here, and so you're seeing that same box that you had, the defaults in Blender.
Right.
You're seeing it right here before you. Nothing is different.
That's right. So if pretend this was a slime creature, we can bring it to the surface. And when you first create your model, you're probably not going to go and create all the animations and everything all at one time. So it's like one step at a time. So right now I just want to see my slime creature. And if you pretend that would be the slime creature, and obviously it doesn't have a texture, so it brings in the default texture, which is a gray, boring looking texture, just to cover over the mesh so you can see it. And then I can put my character down by going to camera, place player at camera, and I like to press F11. You don't have to, but I press F11 to go into play mode. So now we're in play mode, and I'm just moving around. Now notice that it doesn't have a collision mesh. See what? Geez, can I talk? See what happens when I walk into it. See, I go right through it. I can go inside of it.
Now that's an easy enemy,
right? And I can shoot at it, and bullets go right through it because there's no collision. So the bullet physics can't even interact with it, and that's important information that you're going to glean from it. But now we're going to go in and start shaping this box, putting a texture on it, and re-importing it, and getting an idea. Now, when we're done today, it's not going to look like a slime creature as well. What we're trying to do is just get the basic shape, and what you would really want to do is do a quick sketch, some ideas of what you're basically trying to create. That's what I did with this slime creature. I want, protrusions coming out and the slime coming out and everything. That's way too complicated for a single video like this. So we're just going to get the basic shape to give you a basic idea, and then we'll re-import the slime creature, and then the second time, hopefully shape to a certain extent of what we want. And then we'll go ahead and go from there and add the texture and wrap it around the creature and then import that as well.
Perfect.
So we'll go ahead and escape out of this. All right. So there's the actual texture that we're going to use, but we haven't got there yet. Okay. That's fine. So I hit press 1, and I'm going to hit G for grab, and then Z to bring it up to the floor. So I want my slime creature when I import it to align with the floor.
Those graphs on there, that's a floor.
Right.
That's considered on what happens if I made it into the floor when I import
Well,
it?
when you imported the creature, if you start off like that, it's not a good thing. Actually, I want to bring it down a tiny bit because the slime creature is going to be into the ground. And that's basically what you have to keep in mind. If you're going to create a model and go through all this trouble, you want to start it off correctly, because if you get
otherwise half its body's going to be floating through the ground.
And I've had that happen.
Okay.
And the thing is you get so ingrained in what you're doing, especially if it's a humanoid creature, you don't really see that his feet are floating above the ground by a couple inches. And so now if you made a bunch of models for the animations, now you have to go through all those models and fix each one of those and re-export those. So it's better just to get it right the first time, as with most things. So, but let's go ahead and, what are we going to do here? Oh, I want to bring this set of commands over here. I'm going to go to 1. And so I brought it to the floor. I'm going to hit tab, and now I'm in vertex mode. Now, in order to move, I'm hitting the middle mouse button and moving around. And this allows me to add more vertices, okay? So I kind of want a circular shape out of this thing, right? So I'm going to add a subdivide. And actually, that's just fine the way it is, but I'm going to undo that by Control-Z, and I'm going to show you a different way of doing that by a loop cut. So you can see that outline. I'm going to cut them right here, and I can move my mouse up and down when I first press the left key, and I hit left key again, and it places it where I want. Let's go ahead and select the bottom ones, and I just want to get a basic shape.
What are you doing to select those bottoms there?
The right key on the mouse.
Okay. Right key in Blender is select, and that is confusing because normally you're used to left key.
So I'm going to go to the top view hitting the 7 key, and I'm going to hit S for size and bring that out. Okay. Now this, I'm going to do the same thing, and I'm going to go ahead and shrink that one down a little bit. And
now we've made a Burger King ventilation fan.
Yeah. So
or if you eat Japanese hibachi, you may be familiar. Now we're looking like a UFO. I'm liking it.
So we might just stick with a UFO by the time we're done here. I'm just kidding. All right, so we have just basic pyramid shape here so far.
Nice. Looking like a slime more and more.
And now, obviously, we need these are straight lines, so we need some vertices in there. So we're going to go ahead and cut it again. And the reason why I'm using the loop cut, so you can see each cut individually and get an idea why we add these in. So, can I do this? Yeah. So I hit size again, or S, sorry. And then let's go ahead and cut it again. There we go. We'll hit S for size again. Now we're starting to get a creature that, well, it's got a lot of work to do, but we're getting the basic concept of shape. Okay.
All right. Let's wrap a texture around this.
Okay. Yeah. So I mean, so you get the idea. You keep on adding and modifying and manipulating. If you go over here, I can grab this vertice and hit grab, or G for grab, and move it around. So you basically start shaping it. And if you need more vertices, you add more by subdivide. You want to keep all of these faces as squares. You don't want triangles, so keep that in mind. If you have triangles, it's not the end of the world, but a clean shape that is easily used by the engine, it prefers it to be perfect square. So each vertex has 4 squares. So I'm going to select 4, and now that's a face. So a face has 4 squares. Now if I combine these two,
what'd you do to combine them?
I didn't combine them yet. I think here it is on the side, merge, and you have a selection at center. You can do that. So now I have a triangle here. You don't want that. So that's the type of face we don't want. I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and redo that. I didn't go through that right. Center. Now let me go ahead and select this so you can see the face. So that's a triangular face. We don't want those. We want to stay away from triangles. All right. So now here's the thing. Now we need to seam this object so that we can place this texture in. First, we're going to bring in the texture. Now, Collada is not going to know about this texture until we do something. So first, I'm going to bring in the texture. So open. And we are...
Let's just show them real quick. Pull over Google and just show them a bunch of textures. We downloaded one already.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Thank you. So we have this. So just find a texture as a placement texture. You can see there's tons of selections here. So whatever catches your eye, just bring it in as a test texture so you can get an idea. Name it something that you think is going to be relevant for the rest of the game.
Size?
Yeah, I prefer 512 by 512 or any square number. 1024 by 1024, 256 by 256. I wouldn't go any lower than that unless your game's graphics are not or kind of more cartoony. Maybe you can get away with 64 by 64 then, if it's solid colors, things like that. But for having detail and things like that, I generally prefer 512 by 512.
So we just found a 512 by 512. We right-clicked and downloaded it.
Right.
Nothing special, and it's a JPEG file.
It's a JPEG. You can use PNG. I prefer PNGs because you can have an alpha channel, which allows you to have a little bit of transparency, which we're going to need for this slime. So later on, you could export it out as a PNG and add an alpha channel. And
then always change it, right?
Right. So it's not the end of the world. We just want the basic. We just want the basic concept, and we downloaded one
slime test. I think it was
slime test. There it is. Go ahead and open that up. All right. So there's our texture. All right. Now, in order for Collada to understand it, and every exporter is different, it just has to have a hierarchy. We named this slime test. We're going to name that slime test, and that's over in. You're going to notice this bar across here. It's under, what is this called? I don't even remember what it's called, materials. So you have all these here. You click on materials and you will get a new texture. So, and then you have to name it though, slime test. And that's
because what we downloaded that's the same name we gave the...
I had caps on here. It needs to be exactly the same, by the way.
The exact same name of the file.
Exactly the way.
Now, we have to put that file somewhere specific, didn't we?
We did. So we also take that file.
So you download it from Google.
And now... Oh, wait.
Yep.
Yeah, there's the downloads. And then we need to go into Torque. So we go into...
Actually, it's right under downloads in my case because I never moved
So we're
Torque to where it should go in Linux. But
right. So Torque 3D, you double click that and you go into Art. You navigate to where your folder of your mesh is. So we exported the mesh with Collada, and now Torque needs that mesh monsters, and we had already put it in. We started messing with it. You can see that it's different, but we'll go ahead and just drag in the other one.
Right click it, copy.
I didn't copy it first.
Yeah.
Monsters there. Oh, that's nice. I'm starting to get used to this. We'll go ahead and replace that.
There we go.
Okay. All right, and you can do that while the game is running as well. It will automatically pick up the changes to the texture, which is really nice about Torque, and alter it so you can see in real time what you're doing. Now we need to seam this. And what I mean by that is we need to go into line mode. And now when you select, you can select the edges. And we'll go ahead and select all the edges.
What are you doing to select? You're holding down Shift and right click?
And right click, sorry. Yeah, I keep on forgetting about that. So now we had, what we want to do is kind of think of this as like a box that you have to kind of cut open so that this flat image, slime image can be placed over an overlap. Otherwise, it won't know how to wrap it appropriately. You would think it would be able to do that by itself, but it's a very complex issue. So then,
so really all we've done is we've gone to Google, we've downloaded a texture 512 by 512 JPEG. We've put it into the Torque folder under a folder we created called Monsters. And now we've gone in here and we've changed over here the slime test under Materials to match the name of the file. The file we downloaded was named Slime Test. If yours is named Red Robin, you're going to go up there and just type Red Robin. Not Red Robin JPG, just the name of the file. It's going to find it.
And it's case sensitive. So if it has a, any type of case that's different, it has to be exactly the same.
And then we've held down Shift and we right clicked all around the shape, right?
Right. So we're kind of like telling the engine or Blender where to cut the shape up so that we can place this texture in that
over top of it.
Over
really
top
just
of
overlaying it like a drape.
Right. So mark seam, and now
it turned orange. Cool.
Let's go ahead and hit tab and tab. Oh, actually, let's go to vertice mode. Hit A to select all vertices. I don't remember if I did this or not. So once you rename it, select all vertices by hitting A. Make sure you're in vertice mode and hit assign. There we go. So when you select the individual faces that you want to make a shape out of and drape it into this texture, you hit the U key and you unwrap, and it should do this. But if this texture is not showing, then you can click on this part here and reselect it.
There you go.
Okay. And then once you do that, you hit the, go down here. You notice that these are unselected. Hit the A key and assign it.
So now we've assigned that image we downloaded to this shape.
Right. So it's creating UV texture mapping. And so we're creating maps for the system to know how you want to seam this out.
All right. So now we've got the texture assigned to the shape, and have you put the texture, because it looked like you only had the texture along the bottom.
That's right. So I selected, what I did is I hit the B key for box, and since this is phased, it will automatically select the back facing faces as well. And I missed the bottom, so now I have that, and I'm gonna hit U to unwrap this as well. And notice it creates on the bottom here another map, and for some reason it wants to forget about what texture we have. I've never seen that before, so we'll bring the texture back in, hit A over the mapped texture, and I'm going to move this back over and go ahead and assign that. So now we have our texture assigned to this creature. We're going to go ahead and save it, and we're going to go ahead and this is just the Blender file itself, and now we're going to export the Blender file as a Collada, and it is in Monster, so it remembered where that was at. So in our case, it was in Torque 3D Art Shapes Monsters. And we'll go ahead and export it. It's red because it's telling you that it's going to overwrite what we already have in there. We're okay with that. We have the texture already in the folder, so we should be able to actually see.
You're going to have to go under downloads and reopen Blender because you closed it down. So let's click on the folder.
There we are. And Torque.
And it's right there.
Oh, I'm not used to the icons in Unity.
A little bit different.
Yeah. I'm getting used to it. One step at a time. I like it, though. It's very fresh and clean.
Yeah, Linux Mint is so clean.
Okay, we're going to go back into World Editor. Now, if there's a problem with the texture, remember it compensated for not having a texture. And so we'll go back in and take out the original texture file. Okay. So it brought in our shape, but you notice the texture didn't come in right because Torque will try to compensate for what would be actually not a good thing to do, which is to bring in a shape without a texture to begin with. So it tried to compensate, and it wrote a texture specifically for this new creature that we're trying to create here. So I'm going to bring him down.
Basically, our texture didn't assign correctly. Torque compensated
And made
it
a special
assign
file.
correctly because we may have some open corners or something like that within the shape we were messing with.
No, it's the texture we have to go in and find the actual texture file, .cs file that Torque had made for the specific creature. We brought it in as a square, but it doesn't care if you re-bring it in. It just assigns the texture. So we'll go in and find out what Torque had done to try to compensate for our silliness. And go into Shapes, Monsters. And there it is, material.cs. So when we open up that material.cs file, notice that there's no assigning of the slime text file. So it tried to compensate. So we're going to go ahead and just delete that out. And now we're going to go ahead and reopen Torque. Okay. I keep on closing it out. I'm so used to doing that on my own system.
It's probably better to close and reopen just because Torque can be finicky.
Right. Sometimes it can not overwrite some things that you're trying to do. So we'll go ahead and do that.
So we basically just remove that log file that it keeps pointing to force it to create a brand new log file.
That's
and
right.
Look at that. We've got a slime rock thingy there.
It's one step closer. It doesn't look like much now, but I promise you it'll look pretty cool when we're done. So that's the basic concept. You want to just get basic ideas so you're not doing break the major project down into smaller parts so you're not overly frustrated like I have been in many times where I try to, I know what I'm doing. It's better just to make sure everything's
We've gone
working.
From a square now to taking that square and turning it into it's like clay. We're molding it closer into the shape we want. Now we've put a texture that we want on it, and then we can keep going into Blender and messing with it. But what I love is you can see your work as you're doing it. That's what's kind of cool. So you could spend 3 hours. He's ran through this in less than 30 minutes. But the reality is if you were doing this for the first time, it's going to take you some time to mess around with it. But the great thing is at the end, you can start shooting at crap you create.
All right.
You can
so
start
if you're mad,
interacting with
right,
it.
You might be mad at what you just created. So that's, it's a good stress reliever. I've done it many times, especially with the bombs.
So I think we've done we've done all we can do in this video. We've shown you some basics. We got Chad back on the Desk Geek channel, so we're very happy about that.
Thanks
if
for
you
having
guys
me
show
back.
the love and support you did for his last Blender videos. Give the thumbs up, hit the subscribe button. We're almost at 2,000 subscribers.
Woo!
Can you believe it? With such a young channel, we're already almost at 2,000. It just blows my mind. We were talking about today. I was excited when I hit 10. Now I'm about to hit 2,000. So to celebrate having Chad back, to celebrate this video, want to do some giveaways. All you got to do is leave a comment below showing your love. And I'm going to throw 1, 2, 3, 4
nice.
pimpin' Das Geek mouse pads. Leave your comment. I will hit you up and get your address information and send it to you. And one random person is going to get well, it's used because it's a demo version, but I mean, it still works. A Steam link. I'm going to send you a Steam link. I'm going to send you a Steam link, someone randomly in the comment section. That's how I roll.
It's just love everywhere.
Love is everywhere right now. You can
really
use Steam Link with Linux. You can use it with Windows. I got a video showing you how you can use it with Linux. It is the bomb, and I'm going to give it to you. So, thank you, Chad, for joining us on Das Geek Channel.
Thanks for having me.
We'll do some follow-up videos to show you more about customizing this and manipulating it till it gets eventually into the game. And until next time, get out there and fill your brains.
Don't get subscribed. Does not like the video.